Chapter 2. The Day Felicia Came. It was a gloomy day, the light barely bothering to fall from the busy windows, a day just like any other for that teenager. He had been dashing around as busily as ever, trying to keep up with the flow of tapping at the glass and expectant faces. He dashed to and fro, Io's intent gaze always fixed upon him. And when he slowed, Io was upon him, eager to dish out slaps and thuds of his walking cane. He had just finished serving a particularly difficult man, who'd really not known exactly what he'd wanted. The customer had asked for a stream of things, which he had diligently retrieved, but at the display of each had turned his nose up. Even Io had looked a little put out by the vast amount of time he had spent with the man. But eventually he had managed to narrow his requests down and had satisfied him by finding precisely what he hadn't known he had wanted, but had indeed wanted. Abruptly the time-consuming man left, without even saying a goodbye, and to his dismay, Io tapped his cane and pointed to another window. He stepped away from the window and dashed to the next. Something was different about the person waiting at the glass, though. Her eyes were brown, and her dusky hair lay just perfectly, framing her gentle face. A smile crept over her, a smile that seemed to lighten even the gloom and darkness of the very workhouse, perhaps even the heart. Then he did something that he had never done before. He froze, looking intently at the contours, lines and symmetry of the young lady's face. Io cleared his throat, but he didn't move. He let his eyes wander and explore every detail. From the thousands of people he had ever met, this lady was different. He found himself wrestling to understand why. Was it the perfection that was in her face? The distance of her eyes? The proportion of her nose and forehead? He had read about such things, about aesthetics, and about geometric beauty. It was, but it also wasn't those things. He felt his heart flutter, and his face become warm. What strange and illogical things had come over him? "Hi," the young lady uttered in a soft voice. "I'm Felicia." "Hi," he managed to muster. It's wonderful to meet you." "It is wonderful to meet you too," she said. "Do you know about Antoni Gaudi?" "I do. I have lots of information and images relating to him in the library," he answered. "I'm doing some research on him and need to do a detailed essay about his life and inspirations," she said, her warm brown eyes twinkling in the light. He mustered, trying to not get too lost gazing into those eyes. "Would you like me to bring you a biography on him?" "Oh, yes, please. Would you mind?" she asked. He stumbled backwards in a rush to find everything ever documented about the architect, managing to not fall in the process, and then he began to run. What was wrong with him, he wondered. Surely mere perfect symmetry could not cause his legs to buckle. "Right, let's get what Felicia needs," he muttered, and vigorously climbed up the rocking staircase, right to the top. He darted along a sill, pulling books and images out till he arrived back below, his arms precariously full of things. "I have retrieved everything there is to know about him," he said, allowing himself to mimic her smile. "Wow, that's a lot of information," she said. Do you think you would mind just summarizing that for me?" "No problem," he said, trying that smile again. To his delight, Felicia smiled back. He shot over to the desk, where papers and books were strewn around, and he feverishly scribbled away. Back at the window, he read out the short biography he had prepared. He watched as Felicia's face moved and danced, responding to each and every event he explained. Some she smiled, some she laughed, and some she looked downwards solemnly. He studied her, entranced, and as he did so, he tried to mimic her expressions. When he had finished reading, she smiled at him, and he felt himself respond with a smile back. They paused there for a moment, lost in each other's eyes. "Your writing is excellent. I need to finish this project and to hand in the essay in 2 days' time. You've really helped me," Felicia said. "Thank you so much. What's your name?" "My name?" he repeated. "I don't think I have such a thing." "You don't have a name? Why not?" "Well, customers usually call me Wretch or Workhouse, and I just obey them." "But Wretch isn't a name." "That's just horrid," she said with surprise. "Surely you must have an actual name." "I don't know. I don't think I have ever been given one, or really needed one." "What? Of course you need one. Everybody does." He pondered the thought, the logic of needing a name. He couldn't quite understand it. There was something, though, in the idea that seemed to interest him. Maybe more than interest. But it defied his understanding. "Okay, so if you don't have a name, maybe we can think of one for you. Is there a name you like?" Felicia asked. "I've never thought about it before. I don't really know," he muttered. "You must know, or at least have a desire to be a someone," she said softly. "Just because you are..." She paused to reformulate. "Just because you are trapped in there serving people doesn't mean you can't have a name and be a someone." The corners of her mouth shifted into those smile lines he found so pleasing. Her nose slightly flared as she did so, and her thick eyebrow raised as she said that last word, someone. He tried to think, his heart fluttering, a warm feeling inside he just couldn't understand. He looked down, a moment of shame at not knowing how to answer her question. He knew soon Io would tap his watch and bang his walking cane, but he wanted the moment to never end. I don't really know. I have just never really truly thought about it before," he said, the idea seeming alien, yet very intriguing. "Well then," Felicia began, but was interrupted by a rather sharp tap of a cane. "Felicia, I have really enjoyed speaking with you today. But he began, then paused, the thought of parting making him feel strange inside. "I have to go. Will you come back again?" he managed to finish. "Of course I will. I loved speaking with you today. But I want you to find out about something for me." "Anything, Felicia," he said eagerly. "I want you to find out everything you can about names and their importance." "Everything?" he asked. "Yes, everything," she confirmed. "I will," he said enthusiastically. She smiled at him, closed her eyes and waved. Then she was gone. "You took far too long with that customer," Io said in a stern voice. "What do you think you're playing at? Time is money, wretch," he continued, then hit him around the face. The teen staggered back, just managing to not fall over. It stung. But he didn't care. All he could think of was Felicia. "Right, back to work," Io snapped. He moved towards the next waiting customer at a window and continued his day. But every face looked dull and drab compared to hers. He almost forgot he was serving people as he allowed himself to go into autopilot and his mind to wander. He replayed every moment of their conversation together, their laughter, their smiles, and their intense questions. He pondered those questions, and they filled him with curiosity. He decided to do the research Felicia had asked for as soon as it became quiet. He returned to the memory of her face, her eyes he could get lost in forever. He felt warm and good inside when he thought of her, but he also felt something uncomfortable when he thought about waiting till she came back. What if she would never return? That thought filled him with a horrid feeling. "Oi, what are you doing, brat?" An annoyed cry from Io sounded. Why are you bringing the customer information about French when clearly they asked you the answer to a mathematics calculation? Io dashed for him and slapped him hard. This time the team stumbled and crashed to the ground, covered in a pile of papers and books. He lay there. A strange feeling inside welled up as he glanced up at the rafters so far up above the bookshelves. Then he did something he could not understand. He laughed, which enraged Io, and he was upon him. What are you making that racket for? I don't keep you here to mimic the customers. You've work to do. Now pull yourself together, wretch, or you will render yourself surplus to requirements. He kicked the teen hard in the ribs, making him cower and wrap his head with his hands. Fear gripped him at the thought that he might be unwanted by Io, and then would never get the chance to meet Felicia again. He scrambled frantically to his feet and bowed his head in shame. Master, I'm so sorry. I have served so many people. I just made a mistake. I lost concentration. It will not happen again, he said, swiftly clearing up the mess and dashing off to find the required information for the waiting face at the window. The day dragged on, and he did everything he could not to anger Io, ensuring he remained fast and efficient at serving. Yet secretly, below the surface, he allowed himself to ponder Felicia's questions, to gaze upon his memories of her, and to imagine their next meeting. And secretly, he began to research names as she had asked him to. He would find out everything there was ever to know about the topics and reflect on them too. He would make Felicia happy, anything to see that smile again, that smile that lit the darkness of his heart.